All right, so look, high ticket customers, luxury clients, right? They buy differently than regular it, customers. Like I would say for the most part, the vast majority of customers that you deal with, they're obsessed with price. What's this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? Poor, cheap individuals that are just looking for the lowest price point, they're obsessed with price. Price is their motivator. Price is what moves them forward. And oftentimes, what I find is that in these service businesses inside of epoxy, everyone's running to the bottom. Let me get my prices as low as possible so that I can win deals. The problem with that is you're not making a bunch of money each project. You're really just barely getting by, making a little bit here, a little bit there to keep the business going, which that's needed. You need to keep the business going. But if you could brand yourself properly, if you could learn how, when you get a job, to use that job to brand yourself to get the next job, and that job is speaking to a higher end clientele, well, that's what you'll want to do, right? So when we talk about luxury customers, customers that are making good money, those customers are not price obsessed. They still care about price. Everybody cares about price, but they're not price obsessed. What they're actually obsessed with is making sure that who they choose to get the job, they're not going to regret that. So what they really want is trust, professionalism. They want to know that when they give you this money, that you're going to take care of their property, take care of their project, that when you get done, you're actually going to be done. You're not going to have to come back and do a bunch of stuff. You're not going to mess up and have to make a whole bunch of excuses as to why it doesn't look the way that it should. No, they are obsessed in making sure that they find the company that does it right the first time. Okay, so when we talk about closing these people, when we talk about how to get the actual deal done, instead of focusing on the price, focus on all the things that would make that customer trust you. Okay, so your knowledge, talk about the things that you know. Go through this school as much as you possibly can. Learn the industry terms. Learn so that when you're explaining things, you can use an industry term. And if you recognize they maybe don't know that, then you can educate them. If you educate a customer, they put you on a pedestal. They put you as an expert. That's how you gain their trust. When you talk to them clearly, you talk to them defined. You don't be wishy-washy, and you don't, constantly trying to drive up prices on them, constantly trying to cut things, trying to make deal. Like, trust and professionalism. When you show up looking well, show up dressed correctly so that when you're using industry terms, when you dress and look appropriate like a professional, and then you give a professional price, you're not dealing with an objection of like, hey, we don't believe that you're the guy that can do this. It's, we need to figure out how to get him the money that he needs because we don't want anybody else doing this project but him. We don't want to even have anybody else come out and bid because this person that just went over it, that's who we want to have the job. We want them inside their mind thinking like, I hope I can afford this because these are the people I want to work with. When you deal with high-end customers, they have the money. They have the money. You have to convince them that they need to get rid of that money, separate from that money, and give it to you. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to take a big fancy trip somewhere. They're going to buy a new vehicle. They're going to do something to their house. They're going to spend that money somewhere. You need to figure out how you can get the most out of these customers. And the way to do that is through trust and professionalism. It's through knowing what you're talking about. It's through spending time with that. So whenever you come and you go through the whole progression, right? You get to their house and you introduce yourself. Hi, how you doing? And you introduce yourself professionally. My name is Boom 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 with XYZ Company. I'm here to answer any of the questions you may have. I'd love to take a look at your space. You get to the space. You start asking them what they want first. What are you thinking about this? What are you looking for? What are you hoping for? Colors, design, get as much input from them, because I'll use that input later on to help close. Well, you did say that you wanted this, and because you said that, I thought, it might be best that we go ahead, use a moisture vapor barrier. I know that you're saying people are going to be coming in and out of here maybe from the pool, so I want to just go ahead and handle that. Yes, it might be a little bit more expensive. It's a little bit of an add-on, but in this type of space with this type of house, I think that that's what you would prefer to do if you knew all the information about the chemicals that I knew. Does that seem fair, right? Okay, we're going to talk about prep, because prep is a great way for us to separate ourselves from other competition, and you can separate yourself from everybody. You can separate yourself from the guy that doesn't do the prep like he should. Okay, a lot of guys come in, they might use etching or they might pressure wash, they just might clean it and put that down, and that's might be why they're coming in here, thousands of dollars less, because they're just spending so much less time. That's how to situate yourself if there's possibly a bid out there that's going to be thousands of dollars lower than yours. If somebody does do good work, does do professional work, and you're like, hey, here's the difference. So, there's other companies out there and they do grind, but they're not buying new bits for every project. We actually make sure that we test your concrete so that the diamond bits we use open your pores correctly to accept the concrete. That's how we can make sure that we don't have rejection in the future. And then a couple other things, we make sure that we use HEPA vacs, not just regular vacuums, because we want to make sure that we're getting all of the dust, even inside of the concrete that's just there. We want to make sure that we take care of that. And then also, we always do a final dry walkthrough with a mop of some sort, like a dry mop, and that's just to get up any of the remaining issues. Now, a lot of companies, they may do that, but we make sure that we also go around all of the edges and we grind the edges. There's a ton of companies that they'll say that they do that, but they just don't. We document our process. We make sure that that's done on every one of our projects. Okay, so I'm separating myself even against other competitors that might do good work. I'm constantly trying to add on, like, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do, right? Because I want them to want me to be the guy to get their job. I want them to think I'm the guy that's going to do the best job. I want to do the best job for them, but I definitely want them thinking I'm the guy that's going to do the best job for them. Okay, then we go into products and we talk about products. There's a lot in our industry, there's a lot of cheap epoxy out there, and I've even used some of it. I know some people that have used some, and it's ruined jobs. So that's why we opt to only use epoxy. Sorry. That's why we opt to only use Epoxy Max. And then if you go over and you read the TDS sheets of the Epoxy Max and you talk about the top coat, and you talk about the polyaspartic, and you talk about, the self-leveling properties and the UV resistance properties and things that this epoxy has that other competitors may not have, may not be using, then again, you've separated yourself in so many different areas that when you give that price, when you give that higher price point, they're not going to have a major rebuttal. They're going to understand why it is that you cost what it costs. And then they, as a customer who price point is not the most important thing, have to make the decision. Do I want to spend more to get it done right the first time? Do I want to spend more to work with the guy that I actually want to work with? Do I have to spend more to get the company that I trust the most to do a great job? Or am I going to go with this other bid from this other person that's just cheaper? And if we get ourselves in front of the right customers, if we brand ourselves the correct way, then we are closing higher-end customers. And when we give off trust and professionalism, we're going to close higher end deals. We don't have to be slimy. We don't have to be like used car salesmen trying to drop the price all the time to win. We win off trust, professionalism, and having the confidence that the price I'm giving you is what it's worth. You do all of those things and you will start closing more and more deals. You start treating your customer with more trust and professionalism, and you start documenting that, you're going to get yourself more customers that recognize that you're the caliber of contractor they want to work with. They're going to start reaching out to you. Contractors are going to realize, wow, this is the type of company that when I sub to them, I'm not getting a call from my customer yelling at me. I can sub to them and they get it done right. That makes them look good. That makes you make money, right? So trust and professionalism is the most important thing when we're talking about high-end customers. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence. Make sure you're doing what you need to do now inside of the school, what you needed to do when you're driving there, thinking about how you're going to talk about your service, how you're going to talk about your product. You might not have everything that I may have or that another epoxy company has. You need to figure out how to position what you have, the advantages that you have, in a proper, professional, trustworthy manner, and convey that message to your customer. and then we're going to start closing some deals.